Hello, thank you for joining a new video. I'm speaking to you from Barcelona with this beautiful background behind me. I think it will get darker as we progress through this video. The OPPO Find X9 and OPPO Find X9 Pro have just been unveiled here in Barcelona. Let me share the feelings and first impressions these devices give us, as they truly seem quite appealing. Great evolution from one generation to the next, though with a potential backward step. We'll discuss this, and you can share your thoughts in the comments. Let's begin. Let me tell you first the details of the basic model with a lot of speed. It comes with a weight of 203 grams, 7-9 millimeters thick. In general, it is not a device that bets on being ultra thin or ultra light compared, for example, of what we see with Samsung. In this case, it is a slightly more compact model of 6.59 inches in its screen diagonal, and we see a resolution slightly higher than Full HD with 120 Hz. Additionally, it is clearly a mold and comes with Gorilla Glass 7 eye protection. Here we have a device with stereo sound, but unlike the Pro model, it lacks a dedicated camera button. Instead, it includes another button primarily used for artificial intelligence functions, which we will discuss shortly. The front camera provides a resolution of 32 megapixels with an f2.4 aperture, and in this instance, it still features fixed focus. It's somewhat more straightforward. However, at the back, we will discover a significantly more appealing system. There are three cameras that are fully operational. To begin, there's the 50 megapixel ultra wide angle lens featuring an f2.0 aperture and autofocus. You can see the results there, more or less. Next, the 50 megapixel wide angle lens comes with an f1.6 aperture, and it also includes both autofocus and optical stabilization. And finally, the 50 megapixel telephoto camera with f2.6 aperture. In this case, also with autofocus, optical stabilization, and optical zoom approximate 3x. There you're more or less seeing the results. And of course, it's also going to offer us good quality digital zoom because it offers us a high resolution sensor. The zoom in 6x, for example, is without loss of quality. Later it may lose a little, but by artificial intelligence, I think it makes a very good optimization. OPPO has set a high standard for quality, and this won't disappoint. For video, it records in 4K at up to 120 frames per second. Notably, it includes a 7,025 meters battery, which is substantial, though the Pro model offers an even bigger one. The base model features 12 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage, powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 9500 processor, which is incredibly powerful. You will notice that even the basic model offers very good quality, making it competitive. However, the Pro model takes several steps forward with a radically changed design. It's not just a design change, they also removed the camera from the X8 model. Pro did have, which is quite... In a moment, I'll show you some comparisons to give you an idea of what we're discussing. But first, let me describe the device's physical appearance because it's very well constructed. Like its smaller counterpart, it features symmetrical bezels of 1.15 millimeters. It might be the device with the thinnest bezels available today. We're going to find an aluminum frame. In this case, Gorilla Glass Victus 2 protects the front without an anti-reflective finish, which I believe is one of its weak points. However, on the right side of the device, along with the volume and power buttons, we also discovered the camera button, which is exclusively available on this Pro model. On the left side, you'll find this dedicated button once more, which you can customize according to your preferences. By default, however, it is set to operate for artificial intelligence purposes. The manufacturer aimed to add a function named Mind, a space that will thoroughly analyze your screenshots. I believe it's not entirely possible for us to confidently state that we are unable to, without any doubt, assert that we are unable to in any way, claim that we cannot truly express that we are incapable of saying that we are unable to, in fact, say that we cannot do that. It's an intriguing proposal. I'm unsure of its functionality. However, the manufacturer lets us choose the button's action. Both models have an IP69 rating. Pro model, 8.83 millimeters thick and weighs 224 grams, meaning it's thicker and heavier than the last generation. But its battery capacity has significantly increased, so I believe we can't complain. The screen is 6.88-inch, a mold with slightly higher resolution than Full HD, peak brightness of 3600 nits and maintains the 120 Hz. It also arrives with stereo sound, and in this case, the front camera is the one that evolves to 50 megapixels with aperture f2.0. There you're seeing more or less an example of the front camera, although the truth is that as it is already getting dark, it is not the optimal conditions. But comparing it even with the last generation, that was the OPPO Find X9 Pro with 32 megapixels, it gives me the feeling of having a photograph of more detail, because here we have 50 megapixels combined to produce 12 megapixels photos in auto mode, unlike the last generation, which gave 32 megapixels. The previous generation appears more detailed. Even with the 50 megapixels mode, I see more detail in the last generation. It's quite interesting. The front camera, in my opinion, hasn't seen much improvement. In fact, I might even go as far as to suggest that it has taken a small step backwards. But we will discuss this further in the review. We will analyze this camera in more depth in different light conditions. What has also changed is the rear system, since here we are going to find the main camera of 50 megapixels with aperture f1.5, very bright and with optical stabilization, although we must consider that previously the sensor was larger. Here it seems that by having more compact camera module, have also sacrificed a little space for the sensor. Then we discovered the 50 megapixel ultra wide angle camera featuring an aperture of f2.0. We could say it's essentially the same as the previous generation. However, what has notably changed is the telephoto lens, which now includes a periscope lens with a 200 megapixel sensor and an aperture of f2.1. This aperture is bright enough to effectively create a periscope, providing us with a 3x optical zoom. This upgrade eliminates the secondary telephoto 6x that was present in the last generation. And this decision to remove the telephoto lens is something I believe gives us plenty to discuss. Right from the start, I've conducted some testing and in sufficiently high lighting conditions, though I won't say they are optimal. The OPPO Find X9 Pro, which is the last generation, appears slightly more detailed in certain scenarios. In fact, if you continue zooming in, you'll observe that suddenly this new generation device seems to capture more detail. So they are somewhat similar, if you will. In certain moments, this one comes out on top, while in other instances, the previous generation interestingly takes the lead. However, where this generation truly excels is when the lighting conditions are significantly lower. In indoor settings or even during night zoom, this device will capture a slightly higher level of detail due to its brighter aperture. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. Personally, I like the strategy of having two telephoto lenses. It appears that OPPO will reserve this feature solely for their Ultra models. We'll have to wait and see if the X9 Ultra is ever launched in the future. But for now, it seems quite unusual to remove one of the telephoto lenses. Although, as I mentioned, it does add a 200 megapixel sensor. This sensor, through cropping, can still provide us with a 6x zoom while maintaining optical quality. And the truth of the matter is that by taking several pictures, you realize that it does give us a good quality. But the curious thing is that it has also been launched with an optional accessory. Obviously, this will be sold separately. And we do not even know if it will have a very good distribution. However, it becomes really appealing because it's essentially a large lens that you'll attach to the device, allowing you to enhance its optical zoom up to 10 times, all while maintaining the quality without any loss. And therefore, it could increase up to 50 times, for instance, in video recording. This is an area where many devices still face limitations, particularly those that choose a telephoto lens strategy with a not very extended optical zoom, but rely on a high-resolution sensor. This lens would be beneficial for such situations. Of course, it also provides you with a much more pronounced sense of depth of field. With this completely natural bokeh effect, your portrait photography would truly appear spectacular and stand out beautifully. I had the opportunity to try it out for a few seconds, and I have to say it's an accessory that will definitely appeal to those who are truly passionate about cell phone photography. It's quite attractive for enthusiasts. However, it's important to note that this is an optional accessory. Interestingly, to attach it, you need to use a specific case, a special cover that fits over the rest of the cameras. Therefore, it's not something that would be particularly practical or useful in everyday situations. I'm not sure it will be as practical in everyday life. It's there for those who want to buy it. Regarding the video recording, I had already anticipated you that it reaches 8K 120 frames per second, even recording in log. In fact, it looks very good quality to give you a professional level. I like that. We will find in the software ColorOS 16 based on Android 16. We will test it more in depth in the review to show you new features. For now, it looks very good with a slight redesign that looks inspired by liquid glass at times. With regard to security, it's crucial to mention something, as last generation was criticized for its optical fingerprint reader that typically used in the mid-range. Now it's an ultrasonic fingerprint reader, making unlocking much quicker. You can recognize your fingerprint even if your finger is a little bit wet. So you gain more versatility, more speed, and now it really catches up to a high-end device in this aspect. We will definitely also come across facial recognition features. However, make sure to pay close attention to the battery specifications, because we have discovered that it has a capacity of 7,500 milliampere hours, which is something that will undoubtedly stand out significantly. Additionally, they support fast charging at 87 watts and wireless charging at 50 watts. In this scenario, the basic model also includes these charging capabilities, although the battery is slightly smaller. I must say, I really appreciate that OPPO has chosen to make this particular decision. Samsung really ought to learn something about this, because we aren't actually looking for thinner and lighter phones, even if they add a bit more thickness and a bit more weight. If they enhance the battery in this manner, it will truly be beneficial. Although it's a silicon and carbon battery, you need to test it out and not just rely solely on the numbers. Because remember, sometimes the numbers might seem impressive, yet the actual usage can be disappointing. We'll test it later. For now, it's impressive to see 7,500 milliamp hours. As for performance, both the Pro and base models feature the MediaTek Dimensity 9560. If you haven't tried one of these high-end MediaTek processors, you might not appreciate it as much, but these are excellent processors. Starting from the 9300, 9300 plus, 9400, now nearing 9500. Trust me, they're competitive and perform well. They're not going to be the most powerful thing on the market, that has to be said. I think Qualcomm is still more powerful in terms of raw power. The performance that they will be able to achieve will certainly be very good, but it will also be something that we will test a little bit further down the road. Hey, these are just my initial impressions and first feelings about this device. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Personally, I like it as an overall concept because it shows a significant evolution compared to the previous generation, which is something not very common among manufacturers today. Typically, they make a few minor changes and that's all. However, OPPO has made several substantial changes, making it quite appealing. By the way, it will be available in a variety of colors. The Pro model is offered in just 2 colors, whereas the base model even includes an addition. The phone's color will be a combination of those colors, but it appears that this option will only be offered in certain markets. Additionally, it has been confirmed that both the OPPO Find X9 and the OPPO Find X9 Pro are set to officially arrive in Mexico soon. So keep an eye out, as we will definitely be updating you with their pricing and availability details later on. But for now, I think we're going to close this video because it's getting dark and my light is reflecting badly on the glass. You can no longer see the beautiful beach we had in the background. Well, now you can see the beautiful beach we have in the background, but it's getting more romantic. For the moment, we have reached the end of this video. If you liked it, you can let us know, and we'll see you next time.